Hello and a warm welcome to this webinar, Managing Reports and Statistics in Alma. My name is Bob Banerjee, part of your Libris team, marketing team over here in Libris North America. And I'm joined by my very good friend, Barbara, who will be running the webinar. With that, I'll hand it over to you, Barbara. Let me just make you the presenter.
Okay, thanks very much, Bob. Hello to you all. Thanks very much for taking the time to participate in this webinar. Today we're going to look at analytics, reporting and statistics in Alma. Now, the first and most important thing that I'd like about Alma Analytics, that this is part of the Alma package or part of the Alma subscription. Analytics were developed from the start together with the development of Alma. It wasn't an add-on that we thought about later and we said, oh, we'd better have something related to reports, and we just sort of tacked something on at the end, and it's never really a very good integration when you do something like that. And as I mentioned, and I want to stress again, it's part of the Alma subscription. So you pay for the whole package. There is no extra cost involved in using Alma Analytics. Another comment that I'd like to make, just out of interest for you, that Analytics is implemented on the Oracle Analytics server. Some of you might be familiar with this. It's known familiarly as OAS, and that's what we're working on. For those of you who are logging into or connecting to this webinar for the first time, this webinar series, I am on my personalized dashboard. I have logged in as somebody called Donna White, and I recent pages that I've been accessing, and here I have various options on my dashboard. I'm just going to lower something that's bothering me. I have various options, widgets coming from Alma Analytics, so we're going to see more about that in detail today. But what is interesting for us for our session today is that we can see the various access points to the various elements of Alma here on the side. And of course, I'm only seeing these various access points because I have the roles and privileges to go to these various subject areas. So here we can see our link to analytics. I'm going to click on this, and here we can see design analytics, and I'm going to click on that. And what it does, it's taking me to my Oracle Analytics. Here we can see Oracle Analytics, and we have a number of options. And I'm going to start by going to a catalog, or the catalog, I suppose I should say. Now, when I open the catalog, we can actually have a number of folders. I have a personal folder, and then when I open this out, we can see that we have shared folders. So let's take a minute to understand what we're seeing. First of all, we have a folder called Alma, and Alma basically is an area where out-of-the-box reports. Bob, did you want to say something? I just heard
No, that's fine.
Okay, everybody, okay, sorry. So here we have a folder, Alma, where our Libris creates out-of-the-box reports that can be used by anybody that is accessing Alma Analytics. And I'm going to stress this perhaps more than once. Whenever I actually use a report that exists, I'm always going to see the report output with information that is coming from my institution. The next folder that we're seeing is Alma College, and this is my institution. And then the third folder that we're looking at is a community folder. So what we have in Alma is that we allow our users to share reports with other Alma users. So for example, we can see that there is a folder of regional user groups, and we can see various options. So for example, if I'm a user in Sweden and I'm creating a particular report that I think would be of value for my Swedish colleagues because we're required to report on certain parameters to the Ministry of Education, for example, I can share this, and this just saves so much time and trouble for other people to have to create exactly the same report on their own. Look at reports by institutions and so on, but I think you understand what we mean here. I'm going to open the Alma folder, and it's quite useful just to take a slow scroll down the subfolders that we can see within this top Alma folder. So see that we can report on many different things. We can actually even report on analytics usage. So we have analytics to report on analytics usage. We can report by cost per use, digital inventory, fulfillment, etc., etc. You can see many, many different reporting options. I'm going to scroll back up and I'm going to just click to open the folder. We can see that we can look at dashboards that have been created, and these are usually a collection of different reports posted on one dashboard. I'm interested in looking at reports, so I'm going to expand on that. And I actually, for my presentation today, I've decided I'm just pretending I'm Donna White at my college, and I want to create a report, something related to portfolios. So I can scroll down these various options. Just looking at this, I think maybe this report newly acted portfolios will give me what I want. And I can click open on that in order to see more information. Remember what I said? I said that when I open, I'm always going to see the output of the report with my data. And I say, okay, this isn't exactly what I want, but it's close enough. So what I'm going to do is I am just going to scroll down to the bottom and I'm going to say, I now want to edit this report. So I'll click on the edit button. And it's going to open this report in an edit mode for me. Here, I'm looking at the results tab, and I can see the of this report where I have electronic collection name, number of portfolios, and the portfolio action date. On the left-hand side, we can see some interesting things, but let's move from the results tab to the criteria tab, where I can choose the parameters that I want in order to create my report. So here we can see the columns, the electronic public name, the activation date, the number of portfolios. But I think what is most interesting is what we have here on the right-hand side. And in fact, when we look at the e-inventory subject area, we have so many areas, or so many, yes, I think areas is a good term, that I can report on, that we actually even created a sort of a subfolder. So this is my portfolio area. And then when I scroll down here, these are all the elements related to electronic collections that I can report on. And this is related to service. And I'll just scroll down here and I'll just point out these options. I can always report on bibliographic details. I can always create a report based on classification. It could be Dewey, it could be C, it could be other classifications. And for one small minute, I'm just going to switch back to Alma just to show you here an example. I have an e-resource widget, which I created based on the top 10 classifications that I have related to e-resource information. Let's scroll back up here and let's just open one folder just as an example. And this is why I wanted to come open this subject area, because there are so many different options. I can report on the number of available portfolios, but maybe I want to report on portfolios deleted and in the repository, or are only deleted, or just in the repository, or linked or not linked. I think you get the idea of the granularity that is available that we are able to report on. I can report on dates available for certain groups, coverage, etc., etc. Let's just close that. Let's scroll down and open an electronic collection folder just to see, once again, the very many varied options that are available for us to report on. Okay, let's come back here. I'll just move this across a little so we can see here. Now, when I looked at this, we saw that there was a portfolio activation date. When I look here at the bottom, I can see that I have some filters, and I want to start first of all with this filter. It says portfolio activation date is prompted. So some kind of a filter was created on this column. When I looked at this report within Oracle, I didn't see any kind of a prompting. But if I looked at it from some kind of a dashboard or a report within Alma or Analytics would prompt me to put in some kind of a date range. This is how this report was created. Now, first of all, I'm not actually interested in any information about the activation date, so I can delete this column. But I want you to note that even though I have deleted this column, this filter still remains. And this is a very, very valuable option when we're creating reports. We can put in columns here in this area. We can then filter on one of these columns. But if I'm not interested in seeing the actual output, I just want to filter on the detail, then I can just delete that column. And this is what we have seen. And I'm actually even going to now, after I've gone through all that explanation, I'm going to just delete it. Let's have a look at our results again and see the results. Okay, now we have just the electronic collection name and the number of portfolios. I'm looking at this. No, I think I'm going to do something with that. I'm going to come back to my criteria, and I'm now going to filter the number of portfolios, and I'm going to say I only want to get results if there are more than 10 portfolios in a collection, and click OK on that. So here now we have a new filter. We can see that there is another filter that was created for this newly activated portfolios. A library might want to filter by whether a collection is free or not. This doesn't interest me, and so I'm just going to click on that. When I look at these two filters, they're really quite interesting, because I would never ever think to create or put in a column a life cycle about whether the availability, and I'm assuming that it is available, never think of putting those columns when I created a report. And we can see sometimes why it is so valuable to be able to take a report that has been created out of the box by Ex Libris and use it, maybe use it as is, or sometimes modify it, but we get this additional input that we might not be aware of. Sometimes it could be an SQL query that could be valuable for us. I'm going to keep these. I think they're quite good. I'm going to go back to my results. Let's have a look now. Yes, I only have things that are greater than 10, but I'm still not quite satisfied. Very hard to please. So what I'm going to do now, I want to see my report, because I want to see the number of portfolios in an electronic collection, not sorted alphabetically by electronic collection name, but by the number of portfolios in descending numbers. Now I'm quite happy with this, but there are a few little things that I want to tidy up, so to speak. So I'm going to click on this little pencil icon. And then here I have a gear icon, which allows me to edit various parameters related to the actual column. We'll look at column properties. I'm going to go to the column format, and this is what I want. It's very important when I create a report to know exactly on what element I'm reporting. So we need to have this very full name, number of portfolios in repository. But I don't need that in my report output. So I'm just going to delete that, and I'm going to call this column number of portfolios. So this is just an example. You can see here, you can change the font, you can add colors. If we put the style here, you can do all kinds of amazing things. It's really quite friendly and fun to play with. Believe you me, I'm talking from
Barbara,
experience.
pardon me,
Yes.
Barbara, just a quick
Yes.
question. A couple of people are asking, what's the best way to define the term portfolio? Because for some people, it's a slightly new term.
A portfolio is basically an item in a collection. It could be a journal, it could be a book, but that is basically what the term means. Okay, it's an item in a collection. So I
Got
hope
it.
that answers that. Thank you for interrupting, Bob. I think that was really important as you felt to get that clarified.
Thank
So
you.
it's
Sorry.
the number of items in my free journal collection. We're going to assume that those items are going to be actually journals, journal titles. Here also journal titles as well. Okay. I'm just going to continue where I left off, if that is okay. I'm going to stop in a few minutes, I promise, for questions. I'm going to click now on this particular option, do exactly the same thing, say that I want custom heading. I don't need to have the public name here, so I'll delete that. Click OK. And let's see, it looks good. Click Done. I'm going to do one small edit additionally, because I just love this option. I look at reports. I like to have an enable alternate styling option. And I want you to be able to see this very clearly. So I'm going to choose a very bright yellow, and I'm going to say, okay. I'm going to say, okay. And did I do that? I chose that, and I did okay, and I did okay. And for some reason, I'm expecting to see it in yellow. Maybe I'm not something correctly right now. I'm not going to stay on that. For those of you who have very sharp eyes, and I'm one of them, I can see a very, very pale green on this line, on this line, on this line. I'm not sure why I'm not seeing the yellow that I chose, but we won't stay on that. Okay, I have created the perfect report that I want to save. And so I'm going to come and save it. But let's remember, I'm creating this within the Alma out-of-the-box reports created by Ex Libris. So when I come up here to save, we can see that this is grayed out. And it makes sense. I cannot save a report in this folder that is created out of the box, etc. I can only do save as. So I'm going to say save this report, and I'm going to say I don't want to under Alma. I want to create it under my institution. I'll click on the report option, and I will give it a name. I will say, I don't want to call it, I'll say collections and portfolios, and click OK. And there we are. We can see the title here, and we can see my beautiful report. If I come back to my catalog now, I look here under the Alma College. Here we are. We can see the college reports. Here is my collections and portfolios. I can open it to see the output. You might be able to see the green slightly better now, but that is the output. Okay, Bob, I promised I'd stop talking. I'm going to stop talking. Do you have any additional questions that we can address before I can continue?
No, not exactly questions, but we do have some eagle-eyed viewers here. And one person said, you chose the border style, not the fill. That's why it didn't come out in the color you were expecting. So
Well,
thank you.
Thank you. And I want to tell you that this is very disappointing for me because I really tried this a few times and I really got it to do what I wanted it to do, but I always get very excited when I'm presenting. So sometimes I sort of go blind. I think I'm clicking on the right thing and I'm not. But
You're doing fantastically. So that was that. And there was another question. I'll read it out literally. If you want to save changes I made to one of the out-of-the-box reports, should you save it locally to institution folders?
You have to. You cannot. Yes, you have to save it. You have to save it locally. But if I come to my catalog, we can see that I have a My Folder area. And I think if you want to share it with the community, only once you've finished saving it would I actually say, I now also want to share it with the community. But I could put it here under my folders.
What about dashboards?
Anything. If I open my folders, we've got a dashboard here. I can open my dashboard. I can see various reports that I have. We're just looking as an example, but we're creating a report and then we're going to see something about dashboards presently. Okay?
Got
Any
it.
other comment or questions, Bob?
Yes, a quick one. I assume the question is, I assume the default save as is to a or is to a private location so we don't accidentally share data that should be confidential. Is that right? It's the default to a private location?
No, so first of all, let's stress again. I am in my institution. I'm looking at reports and I'm only going to see my data. If I share this report with somebody in my community and somebody opens that report that I've shared with them, only see their data as an input in the report that I shared. So it's not a matter of sharing it privately in your institution because nobody's ever going to be able to see information here. If I log into another Alma institution, I'm not going to see Alma College. I'm going to see, for example, Alma University. So every time somebody logs in to Oracle, they're going to see the out-of-the-box reports, and they're going to see here an area where they can create reports for their institution.
Got it. I think Marianne nailed it here. She said, so basically, when you're creating a report, we tend to think of you're creating a report, you output it to a PDF and you share it with whoever you want. But in this case, you're sharing a template or a
exactly. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. And have a look here. And was that Mary Ann who nailed it for us?
It was.
Okay, so have a look here. I can export it. I can print it. I can choose how I export it. But we're going to look at a lot of other options presently. Okay.
The final one. Final one, please, from Lily. I just want to keep the questions close to where you're presenting.
Yes, absolutely.
Can a report created by one staff member be visible if shared to a local folder that other staff have access to?
If I come here to my folders, then this is relevant to the person to Donna White. If somebody else logs in, I have a colleague, Jim Benson. If Jim Benson logs into Analytics, he's not going to see the reports that I created and I put in my folders. But please be patient because we have a very important section where I'm going to show you how we share this information with our colleagues. Okay? And I think you said that we have 45 minutes, Bob. I'm already seeing that we're most probably going to go over time because there's so many questions and I have to thank you so much for your interest. But I'm going to move on now, Bob, okay?
Yes.
Okay, so now the next thing that I want to do is I showed you how I could create a report that suits the parameters that I wanted by taking an out-of-the-box report created by Libris and modifying it. Now I want to show you how I can create a report from scratch. I'm going to come here to create, and I'm going to go to something called analysis. And the first thing I want to show you is how many different options you have, or areas, subject areas, to where you can create reports. Now, I don't know, I hope you know this just by hearing me speak. I'm a librarian and I just love reports and statistics. So for me, when I come here, this is just so great to see all these different options that I can report on. So there you go. So what I'm going to do now is I have decided I want to create a report about fund expenditure. And I'm actually interested in creating a report. I want to see how much money my institution, my library is spending per vendor. So now we're looking at a completely different subject area. And so we can see different folders of information that I can report on. But as I mentioned, if I scroll down here, we can still see these very additional important folders that I can report on across all subject areas. But I'm going to start by opening the vendor folder. And I'm going to just say, as you can see, I'm double clicking, or I can drag it across. I want to report on vendor name, and I'm going to come here and open my fund transaction area, and let's open that here. And I'm going to say that I want to report by transaction amount. Let's move this across again. Let's have a look at the results. Yeah, I'm got something not too bad, but actually I'm going to come back to my criteria. The first thing I say is I want to filter, and I'm only interested in getting a report where I'm actually spending money with a vendor. So I'm just saying, just give me anything that is greater than 1. Click OK. Here's my filter. I look at my results. Okay, that looks better now. I'm going to come back to my criteria, and I actually want to filter on fund transaction details, and I want to filter, to be able to filter on fund transaction item type. I'm going to filter. I'm going to say, what are the values? And I only want to filter on incumbent amounts. In other words, I have ordered something from the vendor. I haven't yet actually spent the money, and expenditure. And I'll click OK on that. And here we have another filter. I'll switch to my results. Okay. But as we learned from our previous example, I don't have to see this column once I have filtered on it. I'm going to leave it like that. And I am going to, you already know me, right? I want to have a nice orderly report. I want to have a transaction amount descending. It looks great. It looks great. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save. You see here now my save button is active. I'm going to say save report. It's under reports, under college, and I'm going to say expenditure by vendor. Vendor. Okay. Right. Let's have a look. So first of all, I decide the report is going to be recognized by its title. So I don't need to have the title here again. So I can click on that. Now, another thing that I really like when I work with analytics is creating graphs. So I want to show you this option. I can come here and I can say, I want to create a new view. And I want to create a graph. And I want to create a pie chart. So, oh, doesn't it look nice? Doesn't it look nice? As I said, I really like these graphs and pie charts. So I've saved my report expenditure by vendor, and I want this to be a report. But now I'm going to do something. I'm going to delete this table because I want this pie chart to be a widget that I can put on my dashboard. The first thing that I need to do is to click on that little XYZ thing that you saw, because I need to modify my width and height so that it will be suitable for a widget on my dashboard. I can look at the titles and labels. I don't want to see this transaction amount here. I've got it somewhere else, I think, but anyhow, I don't want to see it in the title. And then, of course, again, we've got all the different colors and the different everything. And there we are. We have something that is really nice. You see, here is my transaction amount. I don't need to see it also in a title. Now, there are many, many different things that I can do with this report. I don't want to waste time by going and doing all the different options. I just want to show you as an example, if I want to create a widget where I put the percentages out like this, I can do so, but I'm just going to keep this report as is. I don't want to overwrite my previous report expenditure by vendor. So now I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to say expenditure by vendor, and I'm going to say widget. Okay. Okay, now I'm going to be very strict, I'm afraid. I want to try and finish my presentation within the time allotted. We can stay over time for questions. So I'm not going to stop now. Bob, is that okay, do you think? Can I get your permission to continue?
Yes. Listen, I think, Barbara, what we should do is we're aiming for 45 minutes, but just like in a physical room, at 45 minutes, some people must get up and leave the room and go on to their other things. But sometimes some people will hang around and come around to the front and ask. We do have a number of questions, so don't feel compelled to finish on the dot of 45 minutes. Some people will have to leave because that was the agreement, but other people will just stay behind and will carry on with some of the other questions. We've got a number of things here.
Okay.
One observation,
Yes.
this will warm your heart, is from Alison Earhart, who said, "Please let people know that analytics questions can also be directed to the analytics listserv. We're always happy to help, and I will put in the comments window the link to that."
And don't forget also, I'm just going to. I have prepared a number of links for you from online help, best practices, training, Alma, and essentials, all LibGuides, all related to analytics. Bob's going to post this in the chat before the end of the session, and we'll also include this in the email that we'll be sending out if necessary. Okay, I'm going to really rush on now as we're running out of time. I'm going to come now to analytics. And I'm now going to come to something called the analytics objects list. And this is, I think, the areas for those of you who are not familiar with Alma and analytics, this is the area where we can define how, one of the places, how we can share our reports with our colleagues. So I'm going to say that I want to add a new analytics object. It just takes a few seconds to open this. For some reason, it's coming from the analytics server, I think, so it always takes a few seconds. So first of all, it's telling me, I think you want the college folder. I'm going to put in my vendor expenditure. But if we remember, it was under reports. And then I'm going to choose my report name. Here we are, expenditure by vendor. I'm then going to say what type of a report I want to create. I want to create a scheduled report. So I'll click on that. As soon as I choose this option, we have a number of options opening out. What is the format of your report? I always like PDF. It's active. How often do I want this report to run? I'm going to say on the 2nd of every month at 5 a.m. in the morning. Okay, it could go FTP, but I'm okay with that, and I click save. Oops, good on Alma. Alma always will stop me and make sure that I add all the elements that I need. We don't want to have this report open to just anybody, any staff member, excuse me, in our institution. This is financial information. We might want to only limit it to our acquisition staff, for example. So what I can do here is add role. I could have added from a profile, but I wanted to use this opportunity to show you some of the roles that we can use. I'm just going to click all this, okay? And say add role. All my acquisition roles have been added. And then I'll click save. Okay, so now we can see here, we have a scheduled report run on the 2nd of every month at 2 a.m. or 5 a.m. or whatever it is. Here we are. Here. I am looking at expenditure by vendor. Where is expenditure by vendor? I think I chose the wrong option. Let me just edit that. Or maybe, I don't know what I did now. Let's edit that and have a look at this. I wanted expenditure by vendor. There we are. And let's just take that. I might be overwriting somebody else's report, but no. There we go. Let's just do a save on that. Expenditure by vendor. Here we are. Now, when I click here, I can see a number of options. I can see, for example, manage subscription and other things. I'm not quite sure what's going on here. So I think this is a very good place to show you how I can get context sensitive help for this page. So we're switching to our, and here we get a whole description about scheduling and subscribing to reports. We can actually see a video about that. Screen captures, details, another video about enhancements, and so on. What I do is, for example, when I say I want to manage my subscription, I want to be sure that my acquisition librarians subscribe to this report. And so I can say that I want, for example, here we can see a particular user, but I want to add a row. And I want to say that Dave definitely needs to be looking at this. And let's take somebody else. Okay, let's add somebody else. And Joe, I also want them to be added. So we'll add that. And you can see here that I have user and preferred email. My library director does not log into Alma, but I want my director to be able to get these reports, these scheduled reports that are going to be sent out once a month. And so I will just fill in library director at edu, something like that. And I'll do add and close. Okay, so we've got expenditure by vendor. We've got our preferred users here. We've got 2 preferred emails, 2 staff users. I'm going to click save on this. Then I'm going to do duplicate. Okay, so now we've got a copy of expenditure by. I'm going to edit. Okay, just takes a few seconds to duplicate that. It's still going to be called expenditure by vendor. It's no longer a scheduled report, it's a widget. And you can see now we don't have scheduling options. And the name of the report is expenditure by vendor widget. I have all the roles, so it's very convenient to be able to duplicate this. I'm going to click save on this. I'm going to come back to Alma. And I'm going to say that I want to add a widget to my dashboard. And here we are by vendor. I no longer, I can just close this. Here's my beautiful widget that I created about 10 minutes ago. Now, I want to go, I'm going to log in as an acquisition staff member. Okay, log in. Just let me. Okay, log in. Because I want to show you what a staff member can do with this information. So first of all, we have an acquisition member, Sally Morris. She is going to come to analytics. She cannot go to design analytics. She cannot go and edit that analytic object list. The only thing she can do is to subscribe to analytics. And here she can see the various options that she can subscribe to. She says, I want to subscribe to the vendor expenditure. And so she's now going to get this report on the 2nd of every month at 5 a.m. And very, very lastly, I want to show you here in our Alma Gmail account, I want to show you examples of analytic outputs. You get an email coming into your email box, your inbox, excuse me. And here we can see some kind of number of items by library. I can come back here. We can look at information about cataloger activity, and so on and so forth. So this is the kind of report that you're going to get, or Sally, who's just subscribed to it, or Dave and Jim and so on, because they were subscribed and they will get these reports in their email. So I have actually stopped a minute before 45 minutes. So now we're ready for questions, and for everybody to stay, we'd be very happy for you to stay. We will be sending out an email with the recording, I think, early next week, but we'd be happy to take questions now.
Right.
So over to you, Bob.
Right. Thank you very much, Barbara. And we'll do a couple of things. First of all, very quickly, I'm going to do two things. I'm going to open up a poll, which is going to invite you to submit an idea for a topic that you'd like to see Barbara cover in the future. And secondly, I'm going to post links to those articles that Barbara mentioned. So first of all, I'm going to open the poll. So look for this. You don't have very long to answer. So here we go. It is open now. So click your suggestions for Barbara, and then she'll prioritize them and present what she thinks will be good. Let me just take the links to the files that she said. Yep, keep all those ideas coming in, because you know she's going to deliver on it.
And if you don't manage to copy the links, we'll be putting them in the email that we'll be sending out to you. So don't be worried about that.
Very, very good point. And to everyone on the line, Barbara will send out a follow-up email with those links, as she said, but with also an invitation, as well as the listserv where you can ask questions. Feel free to engage with Barbara directly. So she's happy to take your questions. Okay, we do have one specific question, and that is, I don't know, Rachel, if this was addressed, so can you please go over the pixels again you need for it to be a widget?
So I'm guessing you're an Alma user. I think I do 300. I'm just checking my notes without going back there. I do 300 by 280, and that gives a good size here, as you can see. But you can
Excellent.
play around with it and test it.
All right. I'll wait for some other questions to come in.
I think everybody's busy copying the URLs, yes.
Well, we've thrown a lot of things at them at the same time. And I see that almost everybody is still on the line. So everyone's frantically clicking through stuff and trying to give you ideas, because at the end of the day, you do know your stuff and it's helpful to have that time with you. Barbara, it's not one of the questions from them, but I'm wondering, from your years of using Alma and from using analytics and reports, what would you say, just for the fun of it, are the 2 or 3 most frequently used reports and why?
So I'm going to give you a biased response, Bob, because I used to be a circulation librarian. So for me, I'm always interested in circulation statistics. And, now we're in another era, or eon even, I think it feels like it. But maybe we're not doing as much physical circulation as we used to. And maybe this is going to be a sign of the times for future years. But I'm always interested in that area. And I think that that's very popular. But as we trend to more and more e-resource usage, I think those reports are heavily used as well.
Okay, and I'm going to ask one more question, and then I'm going to close the poll, and I'm actually going to read out some of the suggestions. We can discuss them briefly. Yeah. There are some libraries out there, there are some leaders of libraries who are trying to, how do you put it nicely? They're further justifying the value of the library. Not everybody gets the true value, the enormous value of a library. If you are in that mode of trying to justify the value that the library is bringing to the organization, what are a couple of the top reports that help convey that?
I think this is a very, very important point that you're raising, Bob, that in previous years, libraries didn't have to prove their value to an institution. It was just a given that you had an academic institution and you had a library that was very, very, a very, very important part of the institution. But you're right, libraries have to prove their value. And I think if you can prove by these report outputs that the library is being heavily used, patrons aren't just going to Google to get the results. They're looking at, they're getting access to resources that aren't free, that aren't freely available on Google. And we can see that these resources are being heavily used. We can see that the library is being heavily used from the point of view of circulation statistics, of the loaning and requesting of physical items. I think this can be valuable input for an institution and to send to the board of directors. You can create some kind of a metrics dashboard that gives this information and shows this heavy usage by your patrons. We're going to meet for our next webinar on the 13th of January. Please make a note of that. We're going to be looking at easy acquisitions with ProQuest Rialto. This is going to be a super, super fun session. So be sure to join us, and looking forward to hearing from you and looking forward to the next session.
All right. In that case, with that, Barbara, thank you very much for being our guide today, and everyone on the line for joining. I'll make this recording available in the next few days. It might be just after Thanksgiving, but wish you a very safe holiday. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.